Frack on. Welcome to episode of Frack the Canon. Today I'm joined by Sara. How are you doing, Sara?
Good. Hello.
And then this is our first time with Raymen. How are you doing, Raymen?
I'm doing good. Real good. How
you
guys doing?
Want to talk a little bit about yourself? Some of your nerd credits, or tell us what you do, what you did.
Where do I begin? I just grew up. I grew up here in the Bay Area. Went to the military for about 5 years. While I was in there, just being the nerd that I was over there, just doing me, watching stuff on my free time. And then now that I'm out, I'm just kind of living day by day.
Cool. First of all, thank you for your service. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So thank you for the. So we saw Spider-Man No Way Home together, like that same night.
Opening night.
Opening night. What were you guys' first thoughts and impressions? So this is the non-spoiler review, which you can talk about the basic. All the spoilers out there. We're not going to be the ones to spoil it for you guys. What were you guys' thoughts, feelings, overall, the story of the movie? Raymen, we'll start with you.
So the overall story I really like, because if you take out all of the stuff that all the fans wanted, all of the stuff, like the actual story itself of the movie was actually really well. It goes into basically the hardships of Peter Parker himself,
right?
Which is what I really liked.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I never thought about that. Sara, what do you think?
So I had actually tried to avoid watching trailers before going in. So like I was excited, but like, I didn't have like a big idea what to expect. Though I did know that there was some, shall we say, special guests, which I know we're not spoiling anything for this one, but I think since it was in the trailer, we're not really a spoiler. So I was intrigued to see how they would bring past characters into the current Spider-Man universe. So I was very excited to see how they dealt with I think I can also say multiverse, since Doctor Strange movies like the multiverse of madness coming up. So I think there's some crossover with that. So I was interested to see how they did that. So
I remember thinking about it. I just remember, I don't know if I told you guys, Raymen, when I saw it, I'm like, I remember being half bored throughout the movie, and then the other half, I'm like, this is fun. But I just remember being like, okay, cool, this is kind of cool. Like I felt that he finally became Spider-Man. Like he finally, because there was that moment, that famous moment that all the other movies have. He finally gets it in this movie. Like, why haven't we seen it? I'm like, oh, because it's kind of reference here and there. What
There
finally
was
told in
a
this
lot
one,
of times where like the first and second, I was like, so this is the MCU's depiction of how they want to interpret Spider-Man, but to have that actual moment happen in the movie was very emotional.
It wasn't, because it's and again, it's something happens to that person who says it. It seems like whoever said that person is there's their faith to move on, right? Because it's even in the Adam into Spider-Verse, which I think is my favorite Spider-Man movie. His Uncle Aaron says something akin to that, kind of like that too. Like, you were the best of us, like something like that. Like, so there's something kind of like, does that make sense? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I found like stuff like that made this like a film for the fans without being a fan film, if that makes sense. Like I feel like some of the like films where they try to put too much stuff in that maybe the general audience won't connect with. It's like, oh, this is like the director was a fan making a movie for fans. But I felt like the way they interweaved stuff from other references and stuff was really like, you didn't have to be a fan to get what was going on, but as a fan you get the feels at the same time. I thought it was really clever.
I agree with that 100%. So my parents saw it yesterday.
Well,
and my dad called me right after the movie, and he says, okay, I see why you really wanted to see this movie opening night, etc., etc. And he is not a big, comic book fan. He's someone who just grew up like playing sports, just that type of person. And to have him say that this movie was just amazing, that's totally not in his realm of type of movies he would like. That was a really cool opinion of his that I heard.
That's a pretty cool moment. That's actually kind of that's really cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's like I can hear it. Right here. Yeah, it was like me personally, I'm like, I was confused because emotionally by that movie, because I'm like, the comic book stuff was really cool, But there's something that kind of confused me, like some plot holes. That was talking to the spoiler episode, but I'm like, I don't know how I feel. I haven't seen it for a second time yet. But I'm gonna see it again. But I'm like, personally, I'm just like, I'm confused how I feel about this movie. Like, there are moments that I'm like, that's cool. But I'm like, but the plot holes that got you there don't make sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, there was definitely some stuff that crossed my mind during the movie where I was like, okay, there's something that was a total big thing about the whole movie.
Right.
And then the specific points where I was like, how did this happen though? How did said person?
Yes, I know exactly. Because they're like, because the rule they said this is why this person's coming through, but that person didn't qualify for that rule.
Exactly. That's what really messed with my head. I was like, okay, well, and that the person that came through, they even stated themselves that, you know, they
thought he was gonna be somebody else. Yeah, because they were like I remember being like Sarah, do you know what we're talking about, Sarah?
I have a feeling I do, but it's really hard to talk about this without doing spoilers. So
okay, like let's do this. Out of 5 stars, what would you give it? And then we'll go to the spoiler part of the episode.
Ooh.
I mean, I would give it 5. I really enjoyed it. I was a little apprehensive because I whenever I see a new Marvel movie nowadays, I'm like, is this the one where they're gonna biff it? Are they gonna DC this movie? And then they keep pulling it out. So I'm like, oh, thank God. But yeah, I had a lot of fun watching this movie.
All right. What would you give it, Raymen, out of 5 stars?
100% 5 stars. I enjoyed every single moment. So I had high expectations before when the movie was announced. And then with the first trailer, I had such high expectations. And then I tried to calm myself down like, hey, it might not be as good as we might think it is. And then leaving the theater, it was definitely a 5-star movie.
See, I'm gonna get hate, but I'm gonna give it 3.5 out of 5.
Whoa!
Just because I'm like, I had fun, but I'm like, the filmmaker in me, the storymaker in me, I'm like, that makes no sense to me. Like, why this? Like stuff. I'm like, huh? That kind of bug out of me. I'm like, there are answers for that. Like, we'll say this. Like, there's a scene with the villains. They're just talking and hanging out. I'm like, really? You have all these cool villains, and they're just talking and chilling. I mean, they're not really chilling, but I'm like, why? You know what I mean? I'm like, something should be happening here instead of them just kind of making, I don't know. But we will talk more about that in the next episode, the spoiler episode, if you want to watch it. All right, thank you for watching. Thank you for second round. We'll see you same fracking time, same fracking channel. Frack off.